A toxic entitled delivery guy refuses to move his car out from in front of my driveway, and despite me asking him nicely to please move so I can go into town, he still refused to do anything about it, claiming that he could park wherever he wanted. So I decided to get some revenge by literally returning the favor, blocking his delivery van from going any further, thus making his life a living nightmare. Here's what happened. So this happened some years ago, but I still remember the situation very clearly. My house has a garage next to it and a driveway to get out of my property and onto the street. The street in front of my house is rather narrow. Two cars can't pass each other safely and there is no sidewalks. And next to the street are walls. And in that area, people like to build small stone or concrete walls around their property, and they're not really high, but it's high enough to make it a barrier for cars and such. There are no official stopping restrictions, but due to the narrow street and the numerous driveways, it's obvious that parking on the street is a really bad idea. Next to my property is a restaurant that gets stuff delivered every now and then. The kitchen entrance is next to our driveway, and the delivery drivers usually park on the parking area across the street so they won't block traffic. For reference, the street is mainly used by residents, so there is not much traffic anyways. On one particular day, I had to leave quite urgently as I was heading to the town hall to pick up some documents, like my new identification card. Exactly on this day, a delivery driver decided to park his van next to my driveway just to save some meters of walking. He didn't block my driveway, but I couldn't exit my property, and backing up to get out wasn't an option either because of the concrete walls. When he came out to pick up the next box, I kindly asked him to move his van. Well, he denied and pointed out that he turned on his hazard flashers, as if they're somehow entitling him for parking wherever he wants. He continued delivering and left me kind of annoyed because of this entitlement and stupidity. But it's right about now that my petty revenge starts to play out. I was sitting in my car, still blocking half the street, as I couldn't get out. The delivery driver finally finished his job, started his van, and wanted to move forward so he wouldn't have to back up, which obviously was a pain in the butt. He then gestured to move away, and I could have backed up my car 2 or 3 meters so he could pass me and do a U-turn further down the street. But you know what? I didn't. Instead, I switched off my engine and switched on my hazard lights. And you could literally see how he went from annoyed to fuming in anger in a split second, which made me laugh even more. After shouting out some profanities, he realized that I won't move. So he had to back up like 300 meters while still yelling and ranting profoundly. And sure, I was late for picking up my documents, but I seriously couldn't stop grinning for the entire day. Wow, I love this story for so many reasons, but most of all, I love the fact that you gave his energy right back at him. Because seriously, this guy was blocking traffic on a narrow street, and for him to be like, sorry, my hazards are on, I'm not leaving. Like, that's obnoxious, and I don't blame you for getting back at this guy. So yes, this was some fantastic petty revenge, because this guy absolutely had it coming. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for declining to fix the errors that my sister-in-law is pointing out in a blanket that I crocheted specifically for her? Because right now, she's acting so upset and has been very rude to me. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I made a blanket for my sister-in-law, who we will call Amanda. I was able to give it to her last weekend, and she had requested it in certain colors. I didn't have any other projects to do on my list, so I was happy to make it for her. And I had most of the colors already too, so it kind of worked out. When I gave it to her, she was excited and she started to look it over. I figured it was to see how it was put together since she didn't crochet, but after a little bit, she said that she loved the blanket, but she couldn't help but notice some of the little mistakes that I'd made along the way. I then asked her what she meant, and she pointed out some things, like I'd accidentally done 1 row of stripping instead of 3 for one section, and how I'd switched to the wrong color and threw off the pattern at some point, and the list went on and on. She then handed it back to me and told me that she loves my progress with it and couldn't wait to see the finished product, but I told her that it was finished. She then looked down at it and said to me, "It is not done until it's perfect. You made several mistakes that you could easily go back and fix." And when she said this, I honestly was dumbfounded. I hate the way perfectionists try to force their quirk onto others. I made this blanket for her for free out of my own free time, and that's because, you know, I love her, and I told her that, but she said she knows that and that she loves me for it, but she said she wouldn't be able to use it because she would not be able to focus on anything but the mistakes. I said to her, whatever, and I took the blanket back and said that if she didn't want it, then I would keep it. She then looked surprised and said that she does want it, but she just wants my best work and not something I kind of phoned in. I told her that if she thinks me crocheting a whole blanket and making minimal errors is somehow me just kind of phoning it in, then I would rather just keep the blanket. Well, she is so upset with me and told me that I was acting ridiculous and that it wouldn't take me long to fix it. Now, if you knew anything about crochet, then you know that if I made an error on row 36 out of 1,115, then that is essentially starting over. Anyways, I come to all of you to know if I'm the jerk in this situation, because right now I'm still incredibly pissed. Okay, this is so unbelievably entitled, it really pisses me off. She seriously is getting a free blanket, looks at it and says, this is not up to my standards. You need to go back and fix your mistake right now. And it's like, no man, I'm gonna keep the blanket at this point. Like, what are you talking about? That is so stupid. And this is not some weird quirk about her being a perfectionist. She is just straight up a jerk. I don't think she's a good person, and the fact that she's trying to make you start all over, especially over like an alleged mistake, in my opinion says everything you would ever need to know about this lady. An entitled jerk blocks a petrol station while a long line of people are waiting to fill up their cars. But as he was sitting there laughing with his friend, clearly enjoying our misery, I decided to get some petty revenge by wasting his time in a way that I think he will never truly forget. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a few years ago. I pulled into my local petrol station and all the pumps were in use. So I pulled up behind one of the pumps, waiting for the van using it to finish and move off. After quite a few minutes, the driver casually strolled out of the shop in no hurry, despite the queue that was building up, and then he just walked to his van. He could see that I and several other vehicles were queuing up to use the pumps. The van driver in the pump next to him was obviously a friend, and when that driver finished up, the two of them stood and had a chat. They were aware of us waiting and were clearly loving the fact that they were holding all of us up, even turning to laugh arrogantly at the guy waiting next to me who called to them to move away from the pumps. This went on for 5 minutes more until they got bored of their silly game and then finally drove off. Now this moron was a plasterer and had his name and phone number written all over his van, and at that point I had a thought, oh boy, I am super petty. So I made a note of all of his details. A few weeks later I called him up and said that I had bought a house in need of renovation and I needed a quote to board out and skim the entire house. And my god, he was too happy to quote for a big project, assuring me that he was great at his trade and that I could not find a better quote anywhere. We discussed his availability and he was keen to come and look at the job. So I gave him the address of a rundown house a few streets away from me that had recently sold at auction. He knew the property and he had driven past it a few times and noticed that it was up for auction. We then arranged for him to call the following day, and of course I wasn't there. He rang a few times and left a voicemail checking where I was, but eventually I called him back very apologetic, and I said that my husband had fallen off a ladder and I took him to the doctor to take care of him. Now he said okay and that he'll rearrange the visit. So we arranged another time a few days later, and when the next appointment came, I had 2 more messages from him clearly annoyed that I wasn't there again. So I called him back and I apologized, and I said I could totally understand his anger and wasted time. I then said, you know, this reminds me of the time I was sat at a petrol station a few weeks ago and some idiot and his mate stood there having a good old chat while laughing at the drivers waiting to use the pumps. Well, after I said that, I could hear a penny drop, and it was right then that I heard the raging and swearing started, which just sent me off roaring with laughter. I had made my point and it was fabulous. I then spent the next few weeks blocking various numbers, sending me awful text messages, but eventually he got bored of that. But in the end and either way, I hope he learned that his actions will definitely have consequences. Wow, what a piece of garbage. That guy literally sat there and was like, oh yeah, let's just chat and block this entire like gas station. It's like, dude, what are you doing? People are trying to get gas. Get out of the way. Like, that is some really serious scumbag behavior, and the fact that he felt emboldened to do that says everything that you need to know about this guy. So honestly, I love the fact that you wasted his time even if it was just for a little bit. He absolutely had this coming, especially if he thinks he can play stupid games and not expect to receive stupid rewards. A psycho tow truck company owner said that she would dump my car back into the ditch they helped me get out of, all because they were demanding I pay a $36 payment. And despite the fact that I said that my insurance would pay for it, while also having written proof that it would get paid, this psycho Karen decided that wasn't nearly enough, as she went to a level of crazy that I've truly never seen in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so due to some recent snow, my car slid off my driveway and got stuck in a ditch next to my house. I contacted Insurance Roadside Assistance, and they picked a random local tow truck company to wrench my car out of the ditch. Now, I carefully checked with insurance before the rescue to verify that it was not an emergency, and I verified that it was completely covered by insurance. In fact, my insurance sent me a written verification that it was covered. The tow truck driver arrived and got my car unstuck. After he was complete, I asked if he needed anything, and he said he needed to check on payments. I then told him that I had a written statement showing that it was supposed to be covered by insurance. Well, he got back in his truck and drove away, and so I assumed that everything was good, but unfortunately, it definitely wasn't. About 15 minutes later, I get a call from the tow company owner demanding that I pay $36 or they weren't going to release my car. Now, I was really confused because my car was parked in my driveway and the driver was long gone. So I said, well, my insurance says it's covered, so please send me an invoice and I can send that to them. Well, the owner then started screaming at me. She said, "That is not how this works. You must pay the remainder or we aren't leaving." And I was like, ma'am, your driver is gone. She then responded just as angry. "He's not supposed to do that. He will come back and block your driveway until you pay $36. You cheapskates make me sick. He will come back and put your car back in the ditch." Now at this point, I was kind of stunned and I laughed at her. And I said to her, "Sure, you can come back and put my car in the ditch," which made her so mad that she hung up on me. A little bit later, I get a text with an invoice showing I owed an additional $125 for a waiting fee. I then texted her back asking where the driver was, as I was waiting because my property was completely empty. She then claimed that GPS and the dash cam proved that he was in my driveway, but I responded by saying, well, he must be invisible because no one's here, and then she just stopped responding. Now fast forward and my insurance eventually agreed to pay the $36 balance. Now I've gotta say, I have never had a small business owner behave this way to me. I sent in bad reviews to all the sites I could find, and I did a complaint to the Better Business Bureau, because people like this truly are incredibly toxic. Good lord, I can't imagine having a small business like that, where you literally threaten the people that you're trying to work with. Like seriously, that is so weird and toxic, it's not even funny. She even tried to add on like a waiting fee as if you did anything wrong. And it's like, lady, what are you talking about? I have it in writing that you guys are gonna get paid. So yeah, the way she acted was insane, and I just can't imagine ever treating a customer like this. Am I the jerk for refusing to fund my boyfriend's genius idea, as he believes he's about to invent a new color and he needs $4,000 so that he can make that happen? Because after I denied giving him that money, he said that I'm not only unsupportive and afraid of innovation, but also that I'm crushing his dreams of changing the world. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and I've been dating my 29-year-old boyfriend for 3 years. And while he's always been a bit wacky, I usually find it kind of endearing. This time, however, he's really outdone himself. A few weeks ago, he told me he had a groundbreaking idea that would change humanity forever. Entertaining him, I asked him what it was, and his answer was that he was going to invent a new color. Before we go any further, it's important to note that we are both college graduates. I graduated in biochemistry last year, and my boyfriend in philosophy a few years before, which makes this all the wilder, I guess. I tried to gently point out that colors exist as part of the visible spectrum of light, so unless he was about to discover some new wavelength, this might not be possible in the first place. But he just waved me off, calling me close-minded and saying that he was enlightened in a way that you'll never be. At first, I just nodded and let him ramble about his supposed vision, but then he told me that he needed funding to start his research. Specifically, he wanted me to give him $4,000 so he could buy supplies, including advanced art tools and a lab coat, because apparently scientists wear them so it would make him feel smarter. And best of all, wait for it, he wants a trip to the desert because he thinks the pure sunlight will inspire him. Well, I told him absolutely not. I'm saving for grad school, and even if I weren't, I'm not dropping thousands of dollars on his whatever this is. He then got mad at me, saying I didn't believe in him or his potential to revolutionize human perception. He even accused me of being jealous that he had a world-changing idea and I didn't. It got really heated, and he ended up saying a lot of things about using my card as he knew the details anyways. For reference, he's been unemployed for a while now, while I've got a regular job. I ended up saying some things I do regret, but a lot of it was in retaliation. Now he's sulking and telling everyone that I'm unsupportive and afraid of innovation. His friends are backing him up, saying I should be encouraging his creativity instead of crushing his dreams. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Am I somehow in the wrong for not funding his quest to invent a new color? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, your boyfriend's an idiot. I'm just gonna say that first and foremost. This guy wants to be like, oh yeah, this new color's gonna change the world. But it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Even if there is some new color, it's not gonna change anything. The average person, namely myself, would look at it and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I would go back to being like, okay, how am I gonna make rent? It's like, dude, what are you on about? And the fact that he's trying to guilt trip you because you don't believe in his vision, it's like, seriously, if you're so inspired, then you can use that vision to get a job and earn that $4,000 yourself. Why on earth should your partner be responsible for your stupid ideas? Especially when they're so irrational, like going into the desert for inspiration. So no, you're not the jerk. It's obvious your boyfriend is having some kind of midlife crisis, and that, in my opinion, has absolutely nothing to do with you. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that her wedding plans are completely unrealistic? Because after I refused to give her $15,000, and after I called her out in front of the family, my parents say that I'm in the wrong. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my sister has always been the princess type. Ever since we were kids, she's talked about her dream wedding. She wanted a castle, a horse-drawn carriage, and the kind of dress that would make Disney jealous. I always thought that she would scale things down when the time came, but now she's engaged, and honestly, she's doubling down on the whole fairy tale thing. The wedding is planned for next summer, and she's going all out. She's booked a venue that's basically a small castle, has been talking about a custom dress that's over $10,000, as well as live entertainment and elaborate catering. When I asked her how she was planning to afford this, she casually said that she's relying on a little help from family to make it happen. And by family, she meant me. A couple of weeks ago, she sat me down and told me how much it would mean to her if I could help out. Then she asked for $15,000. I almost choked on my coffee. She knows I've been saving up for years to buy a house, and I'm finally getting close. I told her I couldn't give her that much, but could maybe help with a smaller amount, like maybe $2,000 at most. Well, she was really upset and said that wouldn't even cover the deposit for the castle venue. Things then got worse last weekend at a family dinner. She was going on and on about her plans, how the carriage is going to have flowers draped over it, how she's hiring a designer to do a once-in-a-lifetime dress. I don't know if it was the stress of hearing the price tags or just how casually she was talking about money she didn't have, but I finally snapped. I told her that her wedding plans were completely unrealistic unless she planned to go into massive debt or win the lottery. Well, she got really quiet and then started crying, and then she left the table. And at this point, my mom and dad were glaring at me. And after dinner, my mom told me I was way out of line. She said I should have kept my opinions to myself and that I crushed my sister's dream. Since then, my sister hasn't really been talking to me. My mom keeps calling me and saying that I should apologize, but I feel like I'm not wrong. Weddings are expensive, and if she can't afford this level of extravagance, isn't it better for her to realize that now instead of relying on others? I know I could have handled it better, but I feel like she put me in an impossible position. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, your sister is seriously immature. For reference, the sister is 27 years old. So this is far beyond that age where it's like, okay, let's have a princess wedding. Like, does she not realize she just doesn't have the budget to take care of this? Even with a little help from family, it's just not gonna happen. Not to mention that she literally was like, okay, I need $15,000 from you, please and thank you. Like, what is going on? That's not okay. That's not a small amount. That's a huge amount of money. Like, $2,000 really would be like the most I would be willing to give, because what she's trying to get together is honestly insane. It's something out of somebody's like fever dream, and it's just not realistic. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to fund this and for calling her out and being like, listen, you can't afford this, because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is super spoiled and very entitled, and you do not deserve to put up with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for canceling my best friend's appointment, all because she still owes me money from the last appointment she never paid me for? Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a friend who's 23 years old, let's call her Jane for the sake of the story, who owes me, a 22-year-old female, a lot of money. There are multiple reasons she owes me money, but the main reason is because she is yet to pay for a service I provided. For reference, I'm a hairstylist, and I took in my friend Jane for an emergency appointment. I usually use a booking software that takes down client card details, which gives me the option to charge the card if they refuse to pay after the service for no valid reason. Because this was a trusted friend, I took her in for an emergency hair service when she needed her hair done for her birthday, and I did not use my booking software because I assumed that my friend would pay me. I often ask for payment after the service, so when I did this, Jane said, "Oh, I thought it would be my birthday present," to which I made very clear during the appointment, as I let her know she'd get the friends and family discount at my salon, which she was thrilled about. I explained and she understood that I had to charge her for my services as it is my job. However, she gets paid tomorrow. Well, I forgave her as Jane is a very close friend of mine, and she told me that she would pay me back. Well, a week goes by and still I don't have a payment, so I messaged her asking about it. She says she can't do it right now, but she will do it real soon. This then goes on for a while, and eventually I forget about it as the service was not crazy expensive and it was just a root retouch. However, she's now asking for another emergency appointment, but I state that she has to book through my booking website. She then told me that it was urgent and that she cannot wait longer than 48 hours. And for reference, my website also does not let anyone book less than 48 hours in advance. Now, it's important to note that she has yet to pay me for my last service, so I refuse her, and it's caused a very heated debate in our friendship. She promises to pay me back after the appointment again, but I don't trust her, as she has a pile of debt to me now, and now to my business as well. So honestly, I really need to know, am I the jerk for not letting her have another emergency appointment? Because right now, I really don't know know what to do. No, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. For starters, this does seem like a lose-lose situation where no matter what you're gonna do, it's gonna suck for either party. But in my opinion, I think you need to stick to your values and say, no, you need to pay me first before anything else. Especially for a friend like this. Like, she clearly was using you and was like, oh, I thought this was like a birthday present or something like that. Despite the fact that you saying, no, it's not, and you're getting a discount. And you know what? It's already hard enough for people to make a living doing something they love on their own. So for her to turn around and be like, oh, don't worry about it, I'll pay you back later when I get paid, and then not pay you ever, like, that is crazy, and I would be so upset if I was in your shoes. So in my opinion, no, you're not the jerk. Anyone who's upset about you not giving this emergency appointment clearly doesn't work for themselves, and they clearly don't respect you as a business person. Because what Jane did, in my opinion, was completely unacceptable, and you deserve to get paid way before she ever gets another appointment. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.